Greetings. How you guys doing? So I'm a couple minutes late. Go ahead and knock out this quick disclaimer. Thank you for the one person that was waiting. I'm not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Any major changes you make to your diet or any other aspects of your lifestyle is something you should check with the doctor with before enacting in your own life. Furthermore, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. I'm also a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. And lastly, but not leastly, I am not affiliated with YouTube, Google, or any other platform that you may be listening to this on in the future. All opinions are my own. That being said, welcome to my stream. I did add a title to this stream today, but I'm not stuck on the topic, so we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Looks like we got a couple chatters. Benito, welcome. Thank you for being here. Mihaela, thank you. It's good to see you again. I'm so happy that you have returned to join us again. Today is a good day. All the omens, all the signs, everything is well in alignment. It's feeling good about a lot of things today. I was having a really good meditation, which is why I'm a couple minutes late, because I lost track of time a little bit. I'm very happy to be here to talk to you guys. That being said, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to kick this off? What do we want to talk about today? You know, I entitled the stream The Limitations of the Spoken Word because I find that I've been meditating a lot lately on whether or not I am doing the correct thing by having these streams, realizing that not everything is for everybody, and that sometimes we talk about things that are outside of the possibility for comprehension to many people. And I'm been continuously asking myself whether or not I am doing a service for humanity, which is my intent, or if I am speaking too soon. Because while I do feel that I have attained some experiences which I would love for other people to have, and I would love to do as much as possible to guide people towards having their own realizations, that I am also nowhere near, not even close, to being able to claim any type of mastery outside of the realm of sex. So I find myself at a moral dilemma, and if anyone would like to share their own views, comments, questions regarding whatever I just said, that may enlighten me towards coming up with some type of decision about how to go forth regarding this project, I would very much appreciate it. But we can talk about whatever you guys want. For the time being, no decision has been made, and I am going to continue with this weekly experiment for the time being. And that's pretty pretty much where my head's at. But let's see. Let's see what the chat's got going on. Okay. Halo says, good luck from the road. Well, I'm happy that you are traveling. The road is a good place to be. Chino Yan, if anyone wants to translate that for me, I don't know what that means. But hello. Rodrigo, am I still making those videos? I am not currently making those videos. We never really know what the future will hold because I'm a person that, while I don't perfectly always practice what I preach, which I should, one area in which I do not deviate from is to live in the present moment. And for that reason, I don't really make plans for the future. Rather, I try to maintain some type of trajectory, which is highly variable upon day-to-day events. And my current trajectory for quite some time now has been towards spiritual enlightenment, and all my decisions are based around that. And I don't completely discount the possibility that, in the spirit of non-duality, that I may live by the great Taoist saying of before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, and after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, which in my case may mean a return to video creation. But until then, we are doing live streams, so on and so forth. Hopefully Noi will come here to moderate the caveman comments soon. We'll be looking forward to her presence. And I'm very good. Zia, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Rodrigo, thank you for your opinion. Starboy, I don't think that's Korean. I'm not 100% sure on that, but thank you for the symbols. I do understand those quite a bit better than first thing that you said. Isaac Newton says, America first or Israel first? I would say humanity first. But that's just my own personal opinion. I think that the concept of nationalism, so on and so forth, is a bit of a divide and conquer tactic, and that is somewhat of a trap, and that the only real hope for our survival as a people would be to embrace the concept that we are all one, and that while an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind, that there is some certain reality that something does have to be done towards certain malignancies within our human people, which lead to violence and destruction, and that those malignancies have metastasized all the way up to the very highest echelons of our leadership, not just in America and Israel, but across the entire world. And that's definitely something that we should contemplate and even be willing to sacrifice towards alleviating. Let's see, what else do we got? Let's see. Starboy says God's children first, unity first. I agree. Ancient Wolf says, I bet you can surf. I would like to be a better surfer, but I can, I will dabble into the realm of pride right now and say that my very first time ever surfing, my very first time ever trying to ride a wave at all, I did succeed in doing that. So, and perhaps it is a bit of a natural skill, though I haven't practiced much. Isaac Newton said, those who believe in the Son are God's children. Well, I would go ahead and say, I suppose that is true, but so is everybody else. Everybody is God's children, and God is also the child of the Great Mother. So that is a thing. I'm not a big fan of the whole concept of following this past person, aforementioned, rather I will even expand and say that I'm actually not a proponent of any type of religious dogma. I find it to be incredibly harmful to our ability to connect with the one true source, and I would appreciate it if the chat was not abused towards the propagation of religious dogma. So I'm not going to quiet anyone for that at this moment, but I would like to ask you guys to not do that. Let's see. Hi, Pokey. Noi, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Your presence is always welcome and a relief upon our chat. Marco says, is it okay not to drink? Well, drink what? Is it okay not to drink like water, coffee, alcohol? I mean, I would say pretty much it's okay to not drink almost anything except for water, but people have been actually experimenting with diets and other things which contain a high amount of, H2O within the food itself and have survived quite a long time without it, but we shall see. Where's my ascendancy from? That's a good question. I think if you mean like, ethnically or as a lineage, I am Scandinavian, Scottish, German, pretty much European in general. Let's see. Austin, good to see you. Symmetrial says, touch the tip of your ring finger to your thumb, both hands, and tell me if you can't breathe there. It's an interesting thing that you bring up. I was actually just meditating on this, not just the ring finger and the thumb, but I was just meditating on the effect that touching my thumb to each different finger has during meditation, and I find that as I move from one finger to the next, that I'm able to more easily manifest different auric colors within my mind's eye. I thought that was really interesting. That's what I was actually doing right before I came on here, and that's why I was a little bit late. Tom is noticing my eyebrow, which is cool. Let's see. Chell DeGrassi says Jesus drank wine. Well, and I would say that yes, I think that at one point Jesus did have a very serious issue with drinking wine, but at some point after, and it's also a good point of it being his first miracle was the whole water into wine thing, right? Which is kind of an indicator of a drinking problem. And but more importantly is the vow of the Nazarite, right? Where Jesus swore off drinking wine, not only wine, but eating grapes or even raisins. So, um, you rather than focusing on the whole water into wine thing and all that, I think it's a more pertinent observation that at some point he gave up wine, right? As well as cutting his hair and being near dead bodies, things like that. So, though again, I'm not a proponent of religious dogma, but that is my own observation there. Sakmitriol says, amazing. Yes, mudras. Yes, mudras, indeed. I'm not like I haven't studied mudras that much, but I have noticed that there is something valid there. Let's see. Julia says, have you seen people spending days without drinking water as a diet here on YouTube? I haven't seen a lot of other people, but I personally am a big I personally like to practice dry fasting. I find it to be the most powerful form of fasting, obviously, and it also feels to be the type of fasting which most rapidly leads towards spiritual strength and purification. So while I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving any health or medical advice, I have been, especially over the course of the last month or so, practicing as much dry fasting as possible. And in fact, I am starting again today on the next cycle of dry fasting. And it's definitely, while it's not something I'm recommending to anyone else, it's something perhaps to look into. Let's see. Fry Guys, continuing with the thing that I asked not to do, but that's okay. Let's see. Do you often have difficulty visualizing colors? I don't really have any difficulty visualizing colors. I just kind of noticed that if I'm not trying to visualize any colors, but I, move from one finger to the next, that they kind of naturally have colors assigned to each fingers, at least within my mind's eye. But strangely enough, ever since some experience that I had back in September of 2023, no matter what color comes to my mind, it's always highlighted in gold. So like, rather than having, just normal blackness or whatever behind my eyes for the last few years, the default color behind my eyes is gold. And even if I'm visualizing like a different color in my mind's eye, it's always like highlighted in like gold shimmer, which is something that I enjoy. Let's see. See, Fry from 98 says, young wine, he made sweet stuff, not the fermented that was brought out of reception. And, well, it's, we can all kind of fantasize and come up with things that we believe, but the truth is we don't even really know if such a person ever existed, and it's really of no benefit to anyone to fantasize about things in the past, because most likely we have been lied to about just about everything. Historically, you can pretty much observe the current state of the internet and the news and so on and so forth. And if we can see in real time how heavily we are lied to about everything, we can basically assume that history was written by the victors and that many things were omitted or added in, or stories have been rebranded and reused and so on and so forth to control the masses. And there's like a saying that comes to mind that what organized religion was created to protect man from a direct experience with God, which is something that we're able to have if we empty the cup, so to speak, right? And so rather than filling our mind with, again, religious dogma and fanciful stories and so on and so forth, and we just empty ourselves of predisposed opinions and so on and so forth, that we ourselves can have an experience which can only be described as the truth, and that nothing else in life outside of your own opinion, outside of your own experience, can truly ever be described as truth. You see what I'm saying? No, this is why I entitled this stream, The Limitation of Words, because the truth is beyond words. You can't write a book containing the truth. You can write a book on philosophy, so you can write a book of metaphors, you could write a book of your own experiences, you could write many things, but as soon as the book of, say, experiences that you are writing about crosses into the realm of spirit, it can no longer be accurately described, because the truth is something that can only be experienced. You see what I'm saying? Austin Town says, "Hey Bruce, what is the meaning of life?" What is the meaning of life? Sadly, I think the meaning of life here in this dimension is suffering. What we are living through is something that the Buddhists describe, or I suppose Hindu maybe best describe it as samsara. You see, so we're living through a cycle of death and rebirth, where we continuously suffer in different ways, shapes, and forms, until one day we stop suffering and that becomes our last life. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens and goes beyond that, I'm truly looking forward to finding out. But until then, I would say that the meaning of life is suffering, until indeed one can experience the true bliss and ecstasy of non-suffering, in which case that becomes the new meaning of life, bliss. Let's see. Man, I'm like missing the caveman people. And then we got the eyebrow people. We got the eyebrow fans here today. I honestly prefer the cavemen. and the Neanderthal bunch, but it's okay. Sometimes we get what we get. Welcome, Faraz. Larry Mitchell says, your body is mostly water. If you stop drinking water, your body dries out, and that's not good. Well, here in the world, most of us, at least here in the West, and sadly not everywhere, but for the most part, the vast majority of people suffer from a lot of disease, and most of those diseases are not diseases of lack, but rather diseases of plenty. So, to remind the body how to moderate itself in a state of diminishing sustenance does actually have a profound effect on the way that it manages resources, if we want to take a very scientific approach. But to each their own. I'm definitely not suggesting that anyone should stop drinking water. But I personally find a multitude of benefits from occasionally partaking in a dry fast. Let's see. Anonymous Worker says, I don't know who you are, Bruce Venture, but stay cool, bro. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know who you are either, but stay cool as well. Sihala says, I belong to Herati Jews, but my family is very sad, or said, I think it means sad, due to America-Israel war. We only want peace. I agree, and I would go as far as to say, it's important to not automatically associate all people with their leadership. We can, I think, almost all of us can agree that we don't want to be judged by the actions of our appointed leaders, right? And I think I would even go as far as to say that most of us can probably observe and agree by now that this concept of democracy is a fallacy and somewhat of a, a lie that they tell people to keep them complacent, when in reality, our appointed leaders are simply puppets for whoever is our true leaders, which remain unnamed, and they do that by appointing leadership. One second, guys. We got some visitors here. And Fry From says, here, one second, guys. I'm going to mute this for a second. If I can figure out how. I have no idea. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. We had some people walk in and they were interrupting my audio. So, but anyways, yes, I think that we can all agree that no matter who you are, where you're from, what your ethnicity is, your nationality is, that there are definitely an overwhelming amount of people within all of our specific denominations that want peace above all things, and that there is a tremendous amount of social engineering and so on and so forth that goes into creating fear and malice and negative emotions between people based upon imaginary lines that people have drawn on maps and so on and so forth. Um, you know, when the real name of the game is just control by mysterious, unnamed forces that seek to keep us enslaved. So that's kind of what I see, and I'm sorry to everybody that's being negatively affected by this unfortunate reality, but that does seem to be the case. Fryman says we should connect colors to combinations of finger touching instead of pondering the creator and judge of all creation? Question mark. I would say no. I think that going within the mind and attaching not only finger touching but light and sound to the different emotional vibrations and sensations with the body is a good way to clear oneself and to gain mastery over the emotions. But overall, our focus in all moments, both while in meditation and in life in general, should be upon our creator and even our creator's creator, and that the constant thought of not only that, but the perpetual question of who am I and where am I is probably the most powerful thing which we can ponder. Let's see. Anonymous Worker says, Bruce Fincher, good luck. Thanks. Good luck with sharing your journey and beliefs. Stay happy in life. Thank you so much. That is very kind of you. And likewise, my friend. Fry From says, is that claim that truth isn't true truth? I don't know what you want me to say. Someone else is now continuing to do religious dogma. Fry From says, what's your basis for claim that truth isn't truth? It's an oxymoron. I don't really know, but I'm going to exit that line of conversation. Noise says it's lagging. Sorry, it could be my source. I did mute it for a second, just so Junkhead took a load of Valium, which is not super wise, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor. Earl McManus just drank a fifth of Kool-Aid that said, dare me to drive. And I would instead dare you to stop consuming artificial colors like Red 40 and whatnot. Have a good day. Cactus Zach has made our first Geico joke of the day, which is a bit redundant in the broad scale of things, but always a good reminder. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. What's up, What's up, Maya? Good to see you. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm looking for some kind of meaningful questions here. Don't panic. It says the answer is 42. Or we have a reference from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a very good book, and not that great of a movie, but I did enjoy that one at some point. Noy Ibrahim says, "How do I see spirituality can fix life?" Well, it's just that the only path to non-suffering is through spirituality. There is quite literally no other way. So to escape this cycle of death and rebirth, one must first release themselves from suffering within this reality. And the only path to doing that is through spirituality. So that's pretty much how it can fix life, by stopping the cycle of rebirth within this life. Saibo says, "The way you organize your ideas is really clear. You sound like someone who's well read and experienced. Any books you'd recommend?" Yes, there's one book that I'd recommend, and I would say I wouldn't even consider it a religious book. I would consider it a philosophy. But I would say that all true wisdom that is put within any religious book, all religions combined, could all the, by the most refined version of spiritual wisdom which I've ever encountered personally is contained within, I believe, the 88 chapters, I could be wrong about that, of Tao Te Ching. So Tao Te Ching would be my single highest recommendation regarding any books in the entire world. It's my very favorite book. The beauty of it is that you can also read it in a single day if you really wanted to, and that on your journey of spiritual growth, you can, through each level of attainment, awakening, enlightenment, so on and so forth, you can reread this book and it will mean something not only different, but even deeper and more profound to you as you progress spiritually. It's the gift that keeps on giving. As far as I've noticed, no matter how much truth that you're able to uncover personally, that you can continue to benefit from reading that book over and over again. More so is that I find that each different translation of that book, which I read, also yields something slightly different, which makes it an interesting pastime to see what, different scholars and philosophers and so on and so forth have made from the words of that book. Now, I've of course don't know how to read the language in which this originally was written in, and if you do happen to speak Chinese or whatever, I'm sure it's possibly even more profound. But even as a translation, I find it to yield tremendous insights. Noah Ibrahim, thank you so much. I don't know why I read your whole name. Noah, thank you as always for the donation. That is very kind of you. It's always feels good to be reciprocated to, and I do always appreciate you. Let's see. Bro, you look like it. Bhakta Tom says, have you read the Bhagavad Gita as it is? I have read the Bhagavad. Well, I can't honestly say that I've read the whole Bhagavad Gita, but I have read the a shortened translation by Prabhupada, and it's also an amazing book. I would like to read the full version one day. And there's a tremendous amount of wisdom there as well. I'm also, huge fan of Bhakti Yoga, and I think that the power of devotion and surrender is not something that we can ever diminish, and that's another very, very fruitful path spiritually. And Cat and Bell says, my favorite book is the Bible. And I personally think, like, for example, like the New Testament, I think is really just like a rebranded version of the Bhagavad Gita. But, and there is, of course, some great wisdom within the Gospels and whatnot. But again, if someone has gone through and done something, so like there's a certain beauty in refinement. Again, this is like the name of this stream is the limitation of the spoken word, and the reason why books like the Bible and other religious books are very long and very wordy and full of all these hard to understand metaphors and so on and so forth is because the truth truly is beyond words. It can only be experienced. And so for this reason is the reason why I love Tao Te Ching, because it contains all of the wisdom within these larger books, right? But it does it within a very small, short, and highly refined, amount of verbiage. Do you know what I'm saying? And so rather than constantly filling our mind with so many words and so many things, when the truth is experienced through releasing, is through unknowing, is through unlearning, is the fastest path to realization, is by, as the Taoists say, emptying the cup, right? Because when you try to fill yourself with too much, concepts and knowledge and so on and so forth, your cup overfloweth. And if your cup overfloweth, you can't put anything inside your cup, right? It's now useless. It's already been used up, right? And so if your cup has no space, there's no room for anything to come inside. And when we say that we want something to come inside, we mean the thing that we're talking about is indeed God, for lack of a better word. Right? So we need to empty ourselves. We become empty. By becoming empty, we can, let the light of truth shine within ourselves. right? And through that, we can experience truth. You see, and so we don't really need so many words. You know what I'm saying? What we need is to practice the art of unlearning. We don't need to continuously learn things, because by learning things, we simply create prejudice within our mind, right? So instead, if we practice the release of knowledge and so on and so forth, the release of knowing, right? Then we can experience it ourselves. And through experiencing it ourselves, then we can actually know something. So, see, it looks like we finally got some. We were just about to end the chat, but luckily people have said some stuff. So we're going to continue going. Let's see. So we have a person saying, I've studied, understand Santos Bonacci for almost 10 years. He had us reading all of that. Well, that's good. I'm not that familiar with this stuff. I've seen a few posts from him on Instagram, and he does seem to have delved quite deeply into the esoteric arts and whatnot. And I can't really comment, but let's see what else. Caden, thank you, Caden, for the Pro Access. Tim, he looks like Jake Sully from, oh, okay. Avatar, I agree. He shares same mission to show greedy humans the beauty of the nature, oneness, and spirituality. Thank you so much, Maya. Always much love to you. Caden Bell says, I love my fellow brothers no matter what. I don't know. It's hard to really say what's the truth. I'm just a man, but I'm going to go for Christ. And you know what? You can do your thing. You know, the thing is, there are ascended masters, right? And, you know, they are happy to come to us and bring us wisdom and experiences and love. My only problem with Christ, I think that he's got many, many, many beautiful teachings and truth, and that surrender, which, right, is very much the same path as like the Bhagavad Gita with, you know, devotion, that these are very, very powerful tools. Gratitude, loving your enemy, like a lot of these teachings are extremely powerful, right? But where I have a problem is when he says, I am the way and the only way, right? The only way is through me. And what that speaks of is the spiritual ego, right? Which the spiritual ego is the pretty much one of the greatest downfalls that we can encounter on the spiritual path. And everybody on the spiritual path eventually encounters the spiritual ego, right? And so I know that through those words alone of saying that I am the way and the only way, right? If indeed that was said, that was spoken from the ego, right? And the ego is not the truth. And so that's where my problem has come. Where what I would more so say is that at some point, right, the words were also said that the kingdom of heaven is within, and that is truth. Okay, so whether or not every word in the Bible ever said was actually truly said by Jesus, or if things were added into the Bible, which were put there and created for control, because again, Christianity didn't exist if and when Christ existed, right? Christ was Jewish. He followed the Old Testament, right? And so the New Testament was written 700 years or so after his death, right? And so we don't really know, if indeed all the words within this New Testament are indeed accurate, or things that were truly taught or said by Jesus, or if indeed Jesus made the same mistake that many enlightened people made, including myself, of speaking too soon, right? Of seeing the light of God, of attaining spiritual wisdom or consciousness, right? And before finishing the process, because there's several steps to enlightenment before one attains full enlightenment, that he immediately started teaching, right? And this is, a similar struggle for myself, because I feel wholeheartedly within myself that there is going to be more, because every time that I thought that I knew something or understood something through some mystical experience, that I always had the question of, okay, like the first question is, can I do that again? Right? And then the second question was, and then when something else happened, it was so much more that it was incomprehensible that it could expand that much, that the greatest thing that I ever experienced could be trumped by something such a multitude bigger, right? And then you think that maybe that's all, but then the next thing is also beyond comprehension, that it's so much bigger than that, right? And then you think that you're noticing a pattern, and you're like, okay, well then the next thing must be so much bigger than that, right? And you try to imagine how much bigger that realization is going to be, right? But then that realization comes, and no matter how great your imagination is, right? No matter how much you're prepared yourself for this thing that is so much bigger, right? It always takes your breath away afterwards. You can't even believe that no matter how great your imagination is, no matter how hard you try to imagine what the next step could be, that it always just blows your mind at how far off you actually were, that it could be even so much more grand than whatever you could imagine prior to that, right? And so, I have no doubt in my mind that this has probably been a similar experience to almost every enlightened person that's ever walked the earth, because it truly is beyond comprehension. You know what I'm saying? Like, the greatness of God is something that no matter how great you think it is, no matter how much of a devout worshiper you are, right? To have an experience with that is always more than you can comprehend while in, a normal frame of mind, right? But only, when you enter a state that, like, the Hindu call samadhi, right? Where you're in a very, very, very deep state of spiritual oneness, right? And that you get to access this greater consciousness, which we are all part of, that we are all inside of, right? That only then can you comprehend the truth, right? And that as soon as you step out of that state, right, you take as much as you can get, as you can remember with you. You can take as much, you take the essence of it with you, right? But as soon as you exit that state, you no longer have access to, the greater thing. It's like being connected. It's like having a phone, right? And you're connected to the internet, and you can fucking go and search this and that, and you can talk to the AI, you can do all this different stuff, boom, boom. But as soon as they cut off your service, you have no Wi-Fi, you got no service, all you have left is the apps within your phone and whatever you saved in your phone, right? Which is limited. And this is like the same thing within us, right? So we have to, you know what I'm saying? And while I don't know this to be absolutely true, this is what I do believe is true, that the final stage of enlightenment means that you always got service. It's like having Starlink, it's like you got satellite internet and you never get disconnected, and you always have the greater, ability to access all things, right? But until that point, we're like, meditating, going around, we're trying to forget everything, we're fasting, we're doing all this stuff so that we can we're basically walking around with our phone, like looking for a signal. And then we get the signal, we're like, okay, cool, quick, download some stuff. Like, let's get as many songs or whatever we can in our phone. Like, hurry up, and we've got to do it while we're there, right? And like, as you progress, maybe you get better and better Wi-Fi. You get you go from the 3G to the 4G to the 5G, you know what I'm saying? And you're getting as much as you can. Maybe you stay there a little bit longer each time. But, the point of the progression is to maintain that connection so that we always have service to this greater internet of things, right? Which is consciousness. Bhakta, thank you for reminding everyone to like and subscribe. You guys, we usually do this on Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, but we also have some random streams sometimes. So definitely turn on notifications if you want to catch the random streams, because some of the times those are the best ones, because I usually do those only when I have a major realization. Kaden Bell says, I like that you are seeking truth in general, brother, and love and unity is something that you agree with. And absolutely. Love is the truth of love. Most people think they understand the word love, but the truth of love is an ecstasy beyond anything imaginable until you experience unconditional love for all things. And once you experience unconditional love for all things, there's no turning back. You will be so taken by ecstasy and the truth that nothing else will truly ever matter, right? And for me personally, the way that I accessed that was through the yearning to love my enemies. And when I say enemies, I don't mean the people that I don't like or that I disagree with or the same. I mean the people that hate me for reasons that I don't understand. And for trying to understand, and by trying to understand that, by trying to understand why people, the scope of perception and understanding why people do things which I view as evil, that I was able to open the all-seeing eye and see through all people's eyes simultaneously and truly understand empathy. And in doing that, I was able to understand that we are all love, high and low alike, and that we're loved in a way that that's hard to comprehend outside of that state, right? And also to realize that most people don't, even people doing things that we understand as evil, that most of them think that they are doing good, and that it's really only the existence of one that the other is able to exist. So what we consider to be good only exists because of what we consider to be evil, right? Same way, if we were to remove everything that we consider to be evil, now that which is lesser of the good becomes the new evil. So you see, we live within a world of duality, right? And transcending duality is a path towards oneness, right? And so, even consider, like, for example, a war or something. Two different groups are at wars. They have different ideologies, different beliefs. They both think that they're right. Now, this group decides, okay, this group of good, it's like, it's time. We got to finally eliminate the evil. And they go and they, let's say, wipe all these people out that were evil, that they thought were evil. But in the act of wiping these people out, they themselves became the new evil. You see what I'm saying? And only the people that maintain neutrality became the new good. You see what I'm saying? And so to understand that is like a deep concept, and that's something that we really should, especially at this day and age when we're really truly moving in a very turbulent direction, with humanity, that it's something we should embrace. Let's see, we got, thank you, Bhakta Tom, for the love. Appreciate you. Kaden Bell is thinks that Shiva is very Christ-like. I would say some ways Shiva is Christ-like. Definitely, if you were to read Bhagavad Gita, you'd realize that Krishna is probably a closer comparison, but we love Shiva also. Let's see. Anthony Samuel says, kind of like unlearning the bad habits and belief systems our elders instilled in us makes sense. Yes, I would say pretty much like that. Bhakta says, indulge my friend. Let's see. Caden says, yes, sir. Brenda, happy Sunday. Caden says, interesting way to look at that, brother. Wow. I'm glad that we can, share that. Lariz Game Inning says, ego is an interface tool fundamentally. Yes. I mean, I would say yes. I mean, but you can also look at it as is that all things are ego, that this entire world is ego, and that in that we are each, even our, that we are truly created in the image of God, and in the sense that we are created in the image of God, but we're like a fractalated, smaller version. We create an ego, right? So that's our creation. That's something we created, is our ego. It's not us. It's our creation. But you go up a step further to your true self, to the one that hears the ego, that commands the ego, or tries to command it in many cases and fails, or but that allows the ego, that makes the final call, right? Your ego tells you to do something, you give us these intrusive thoughts, whatever, but you say no, because you're the boss. The ego is not the boss. That's your creation, right? But you're the same thing to that which people think of as God, right? But God is so much greater than us that instead of one ego, it has billions of egos, right? But you can even go up a step further, because that's really honestly just your higher self, right? But then you go up another step further, and all the gods are indeed the egos of something even more, right? Which we can think of as like the mother goddess, right? That birthed all the gods. That, you know what I'm saying? All these different gods are really just different egos or different personalities of something that is even more, that is so much more that it's indescribable or incomprehensible, right? But we can think of it as like all things are ego. And this is an analogy that I've used many times before. Let's just say that we're really spiritually advanced, right? And that now, instead of just having one ego, maybe we have two egos. We have the devil, we have the angel, right? And then we have ourself, the one that makes the decision on, do we listen to the devil or the angel, right? And if you're, a person that views themselves as good, right? You try to ignore the devil. And if the angel's talking, right? And if you're blessed enough to have an angel that talks, then you listen to the angel, right? Because the angel's telling you good things. It's telling you like it's smart, like it's got good advice. It's wise above all things. This devil is maybe intellectual or whatever. It's got really good, logical points and trying to get you to do selfish things, right? But the angel is wise, right? And it understands the wisdom of selflessness and so on and so forth, right? So, if you try to ignore the devil and you listen to the angel, well, if you look at yourself, you're the one that also makes the decision, the one that's running the shots there within your own psychology, right? As you, right? That's also an ego of God, one of many egos of God, right? God. Just to simplify. Now, it works the same way. If you're having negative thoughts and you're thinking negative things, and you're just in your head with your bullshit, you get ignored, right? Because God is good all the time, right? But if you're thinking pure thoughts and you're trying to help other people and help other mankind, you're helping other images of yourself, other copies of within the psychology of God, then all of a sudden your ability to manifest becomes much stronger, right? Because now all of a sudden you're getting attention from God. Not that God ever becomes unattentive to you, because God's so great that God is aware of all things at all times simultaneously, right? God is like the ultimate yogi, right? That has the ability to maintain absolute awareness of all things, right? Including you. So you're never fully, it's never like you're just forgotten about. But if you're having negative thoughts, you're ignored. But if you're having positive thoughts, if you're having positive things, if you've cleared yourself, right? Then all of a sudden you fall into God's grace, and God makes things happen because God agrees with you. It says, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's do that, right? Because you're the one on the ground. Your boot's on the ground, right? You're here in the 3D, right? And so it's God, that you're God's eyes in that sense. You're God's eyes, God's ears, God's mouth, right? You're the one that's there operating for God in this illusion of Maya. You know what I'm saying? And so this is why it's important to meditate, to have mastery over your emotions, have mastery over your ego, right? Because this is, this is how it works. Anyways, Anthony San Miguel says, I never thought of it that way. Spiritual ego. Thank you. You're very welcome. Let's see. Lariz Game says, the word negative has a similar problem. It has an empirical meaning beyond the stink society slowly attributed to it. And that's true. It's duality. Everything is, you know what I'm saying? As the Tao says, the Tao created one, right? One created two. Two created three, and three created a myriad of things, right? And so something which is beyond comprehension created something else, right? So we have nothingness creates beingness, right? Then now beingness separates itself into polarity, duality, Shiva and Shakti, masculine and feminine. You know what I'm saying? Light and dark, however you want to look at it, right? And then those, right, created good, or should we say creation, neutrality, and destruction, right? However you want to look at it. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, if you want to be about that, right? And then from that created all of this illusion, right? So understanding this hierarchy, right, is to understand like the levels of consciousness, right? But as soon as we focus on like one aspect of consciousness, let's say of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit, that we say it's all about the Son, I follow the Son. You've now let go of everything else that is consciousness. You've focused on, you know what I'm saying, 1/7 of the total. So it's better to embrace all things, come up, you know what I'm saying, to first, you know what I'm saying, understand that everything is an illusion, right? Go up to the level of duality and say, okay, I understand duality, right? And then to go up and say, I also understand non-duality. And then from the state of non-duality, you understand that there is something also beyond comprehension, and that whatever you're capable of being aware of, that there is more, right? And so in like New Age terms and so on and so forth, like we like to say like the universe instead of God, right? But then to understand how little that we comprehend, because it actually is more like a multiverse. It definitely is a multiverse, but it's a quantum multiverse, right? That we can look at the universe and we can compare that to a single cell within our body, right? And that every star within the universe is akin to like a mitochondria within our cell, right? The mitochondria is similar to like a bacteria, right? It's almost like its own living thing, which, you know, runs on ATP and gives us energy and so on and so forth, right? And so when we can think of that, which is the highest of the high, right, we can realize that our entire universe, containing billions and billions and billions, trillions of stars, and that all these stars are indeed consciousnesses, you know, collections of consciousness, right? All the planets, everything, that it's all conscious. It's all what's inside this cell, right? It's all being powered by these mitochondria, by stars, right? That in reality, this entire universe is akin to one cell in our body, and that it takes trillions and trillions of universes to make up the body of God. You know what I'm saying? And that's how big of a thing that we're dealing with. But that God, which it takes billions of universes to make up, right? That it's such an immense yogi, in the same way that we try to meditate and become aware of every cell within our entire body, that which is the highest of the high is so powerful and complete that it has actually done that with the trillions of universes which makes up its body, right? So we are, you know what I'm saying, created in God's image, but when we say that, we don't realize how big of an image that actually is. And that this is the thing that we can meditate on and try to, you know, allow ourselves to think about when we ask the question, who am I? And the question, where am I? You see what I'm saying? So Caden Bell says, I'm going to go, brother. I just hope you know I love you, man, and God bless, and I like where your heart is, and I believe your heart is in the right place. Thank you so much for coming, Caden. You've been a great part of this conversation, and I hope that we see you again in our next stream or other streams in the future. Let's see. The Riz Game says, you need bands, so there's nothing around that's actually bands. I don't know what that means, but I hope that it's something positive. Bhakta Tom says, thank you for a wonderful and insightful conversation. Blessings to everyone. Thank you, Bhakta, as well, for being a great part of this conversation. I hope to see you again in the future. Caden Bell says, I feel like it's dangerous to follow blindly, especially with politics. I got to even be able to question who you follow. Hare Krishna, Bhakta. Let's see. You guys, I got to go pretty soon. Mikey says, sir, can you elaborate on exactly what you're talking about? I don't know what I was talking about when you wrote this comment, because I'm moving through the chat chronologically in a linear fashion, but I'm talking while the chat's going, so you'd have to be more specific about the thing in which I was saying at the time when you wrote that. Parisa says, have you ever taken ayahuasca? I have not taken ayahuasca or any other type of DMT, but I don't completely discount the possibility of trying that out before. Anthony San Miguel says, do you think Siddhartha or Buddha completed the entire process? Probably. I think that the Buddha was definitely, yeah, I would probably say yes. I mean, the only thing is, I would go as far as to say, if he did finish the entire process, he's probably still alive somewhere. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but it's hard to say. I do consider the Buddha to be like one of the greatest enlightened masters ever, you know. But the problem is that like the path to hell is paved in good intentions. So this is the thing, is like when it comes to all these enlightened masters, I think it's, we have to remember that we have the advantage here of seeing how things turned out into the future. And while the Buddha did lay out a amazing path towards enlightenment, we have to also look and see that, like, many Buddhists and followers of Buddhism have indeed been killed because of their belief, right? And so even the most purest teaching in some way eventually led to suffering. And so, I don't know that that actually goes against anything that was said by the Buddha. It actually probably strengthens the entire teaching of, the noble four truths, or so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about that, to be honest. But I do love the Buddha and respect the Buddha, and he was certainly one of the greatest teachers in which we, have philosophy and memory of. But again, the name of the stream is the limitation of words, and so I'm going to go as far as to say that whoever the truly greatest teachers of all teachers that probably ever existed are probably ones that we don't know about, that ones that didn't create religions, that didn't, that, that understood the truth of the path. The path to hell is paved in good intentions. That over the course of infinity, the house always wins, right? And so no good deed goes unpunished, right? And that's the sad truth here within this 3D realm. That is, if we know that the Buddha's teaching is true, the truth of suffering, that's the meaning of life here in this world, that this is samsara and that we came here to suffer, right? Then we know that no matter what we do, it eventually leads to suffering, right? Other than exiting this cycle of rebirth, right? And so I think that the Buddha probably led a lot of people to exit samsara. A lot of people did free their soul through the Buddha's teachings, but there's just a lot to unpack there, you guys. And I need to use the restroom, so I kind of gotta go here in a second. But you guys, if I didn't get to your comment, I will look forward to our next conversation. And much love to you all. Much love and respect to all the enlightened masters that tried to help us unpack this unfathomable situation that we find ourselves in here in the 3D world, or should I say the 4D world. And until next time.